New census data provide more evidence showing that the foreign-born population of the United States exploded to a record 15.8%. 8.3 million of those came into the country during Biden's 4 years in office.
Wow.
Now, that's consistent with how many we knew were coming in. Look at the number who were illegal. That's more than, 5.4 million.
How many times were we told that there was no problem at the border during Biden's administration, only to later be told that, oh, there actually is a problem? Now the true numbers are coming out, and it is absolutely shocking. More deception and lies coming from these folks. Let's check it out.
Well, if we needed any more evidence, maybe here's some. The profound effects of former President Biden's horrible policies on the border, along with his person that he put in charge of it, his Vice President Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I can recall the big deal they made about her being given the position of the border czar, only to be told that we were mistaken, that she was never given that position when she decided to run. But there's no question about it that that was her job. But again, one of the many, many, many lies from the media that I'm constantly trying to pound into some of y'all's heads. The same media that constantly criticizes Trump. And of course, there are places and situations where he should be criticized. Nobody is above criticism. Nobody at all. But when you have a network, a media outlet, a news outlet that is intentional, that intentionally deceives the masses, honestly, I think there should be criminal charges or some type of charges placed against them, civil at least, because the amount of unrest that comes with many of their media distortions, many of these news outlets were partially involved in the unrest of 2020 and over the years with George Floyd and Michael Brown. They took the facts, Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, they took many of the facts and they distorted them intentionally in order to create a headline, maybe get more eyes on it, or for political purposes. Disgusting. And the idea that they can walk away unscathed, unpunished, and without having to suffer some consequences for their action is insane to me.
Harris. New census data provide more evidence showing that the foreign-born population of the United States exploded to a record 15.8%. 8.3 million of those came into the country during Biden's 4 years in office.
Wow.
Now, that's consistent with how many we knew were coming in. Look at the number who were illegal. That's more than, 5.4 million.
And you got to remember, y'all, these are estimates. Nobody really knows how many entered into our country in the last 4 years. And you'll have some people say, oh, the border has always been a problem, but not to the degree that it was under Biden. We have to get that in our heads, y'all. This man ran on open borders largely, and he did just that, because before, under Trump, it was racist to want to seal off your border. But then when we opened it up and then all these atrocities started occurring, and this is another thing that gets me, because obviously not everybody that came into our country illegally was a mass murderer or a sex offender or mentally ill. We clearly know that. But let's not ignore the impact that illegal immigration has had on our economy, has had in our inner cities. A lot of these illegals went to places like in California, Southern California, New York. They were being shipped up there from Texas and Florida, Chicago. And what did we see? If you were paying attention, we saw these citizens that lived in these communities were complaining about all of the resources that were taken away from them. When they shipped all them Haitians to, where was that, in Springfield, I'm not sure if it was Missouri or Ohio, I think it was. When Trump went up there talking about them eating the dogs and eating the cats and stuff like that. When they shipped all those folks across the country, medical facilities were being overwhelmed and the citizens who lived there could not get proper medical care, could not get proper resources. If you ever watched any of the city council meetings in Chicago, you heard a lot of Black and Hispanic citizens and white citizens who were actual American citizens claiming and stating and arguing that they could not get resources anymore. The kids were being kicked out of schools because they wanted to try and educate the illegals. Same thing happened in New York. Even Mayor Adams later on, even though he initially opened his arms up to illegals, he later on was saying this is going to destroy and bankrupt New York City, because he saw what was coming. He saw the writing on the wall. And I give him credit, at least he was honest enough to admit that he screwed up, or honest enough to at least call out the problem. I don't know if he ever really admitted his role in the entire situation, but we also saw what happened to him. Once he started speaking out against it, now next thing you know, he's being investigated. But let's not act as if these illegals did not have a massive negative impact on us as a society. The homeless rate amongst U.S. citizens increased dramatically, and it was largely because, and if you don't believe me, the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, and Anna Kasparian did a segment on their show where they discussed the impact of the illegal immigrants on our country when it came down to homelessness. And it's been known for years that the primary group negatively impacted by a rise in illegal immigration are Black males. Black males, and Trump was criticized again because of this when he said Black jobs. They mocked him. But people who are in low skill jobs, which unfortunately, the unfortunate reality is a lot of them are Black males, were losing out on job opportunities because these opportunities went to illegals who would take considerably less money in order to work here in the United States. That is a reality. And don't let anybody tell you that illegal immigration is primarily just a concern for those who are being persecuted in other nations. I would argue that the vast majority that came to the United States because of opportunity. And in that sense, I can't blame them for wanting better opportunity. But there's a way we go about it. You're basically just jumping past all the people who are attempting to do it the right way, who are coming in legally. And if you came in illegally, there are consequences you have to pay. Why should U.S. citizens? No, I'm not even going to ask the questions. No, I'm not even going to ask the question. U.S. citizens should not suffer and struggle when resources are being redirected to people who aren't even here lawfully. I'm sorry, it just shouldn't be happening. But that's exactly where we ended up. This feigned compassion coming from the left. In the meantime, they know that these different cities will get more people. The census, it doesn't matter in the census whether you're here legally or not. You're still going to be counted in the census. In some places in New York, they're actually trying to legalize illegal immigrants in voting in local elections. You don't think that was an underlying issue with all of these people? Population and congressional seats, they go hand in hand. If you have more illegals, like places like California, Texas, you can get more congressional seats. And these folks a lot of times will say, hey, these are the politicians that wanted us or allowed us to come here. And most of them are on the left. So what's going to happen? They believe that we get more seats, more opportunities, we have a bigger population. These people will support us and we'll never have to worry about losing our power. I'm telling you, y'all, it was feigned compassion. These people could care less. They want power, and that was their primary focus.
Now, you compare that to the last time they looked at the record, which was set in 1890.
Wow.
The country is changing. And again, legal immigration has always been part of the greatness of our country. That's not what we're talking about at all. New federal numbers also show the Trump administration.
And let me just address this real quick. It gets so old when I hear people talking about immigrants. The U.S. doesn't care about immigrants. The Republicans don't care about people who aren't citizens. Our country takes in more citizens legal than any other nation in the world. There's just no getting around it. The argument has always been, we want people to come here legally. Come here to the United States, assimilate, adjust to our way of life. It shouldn't be, oh, we have to adjust to yours. We're the United States for a reason. We have a rule of law. We have a constitution for a reason. If we wanted to be another country, we would be that. But we have a different perspective on how things are to operate. So you come here, you assimilate to our way of life, the American way of living, or this ain't the place for you. I'm sorry. That's how it should be.
That's not what we're talking about at all. New federal numbers also show the Trump administration's success on border security, one of the things that got him in the White House. A bipartisan, all-partisan issue, I might add. ICE arrested nearly 33,000 illegal aliens during President Trump's first 50 days in office. Some 14,000 are convicted criminals. Nearly 10,000 have pending charges. Now, you've heard me say time and time again, they were convicted criminals when they broke our law to come into the country illegally.
100.
Now they've broken further laws. All of this comes as Immigration Customs Enforcement and DHS officials are accusing the Biden White House of, quote, cooking the books on their arrest data. Here's border czar under Trump, Tom Homan.
Wow.
President Trump and the whole team, we got beds being built in the Guantanamo Bay. We're up to 30,000 beds in Guantanamo Bay. I got hundreds of sheriffs coming to me wanting us to buy their beds in their jails. So the sheriffs are stepping up. We got more 287G agreements now, Sean, than we've ever had in history of this nation. So we're going to keep moving. President Trump did in 3 weeks, but Joe Biden couldn't do in 4 years.
Where there's a will, there's a way. Let's take a look at this. It is one of the most dangerous, treacherous stretches of landscape to get to this country. The Darien Gap. Many people die along the trail there.
But that's something that's almost never brought up unless it's by a more conservative news outlet. But when it comes to these other folks, they don't talk about all the people that died on the way, all the young people or women who were sexually assaulted on the way. They don't talk about that because if you believe that immigration should only be legal, then somehow you're a bigot or something like that.
There were 408 crossings through there last month. Now, there are ways to go around it, but can you even imagine? If we know that number.
Look at these numbers, y'all. In August, there were 81,000 coming through, almost 82. February, 37,000. But in 2024, 37,000. 2023, almost 82,000 in August. February 2025, 408. But yet, what did you hear from Joe Biden? Give me the power. I need the power. Man, that dude wanted more power to be able to do whatever his dirt. That's all, and to control the masses more. And all Trump had to do was write a couple of executive orders, and he was able to get all this taken care of. Dude lied the whole time. Joe Biden, his administration, the media along with them, acting as if there was nothing he could have done. How do you explain this if that was the case? And how many news outlets are reporting this that aren't conservative? That's why I constantly say, y'all, don't be stuck listening to one side of the news story because you are missing something. Not you could be, you are missing something. There are places out there, I think Ground News is one, Straight Arrow News. There are news outlets that are unbiased or that try to be as unbiased as possible. And there's some other news outlets that are more conservative, but they do try to report more of the facts. Epic Times, places like that, Daily Caller. If you're going to the mainstream media, your main 24-hour news sites, you are missing out. It's just how it is. Do the best you can to steel man your opponent's arguments and get the information so you are not uninformed.
Of how many came through, how many didn't make it? That's a massive drop from August 2023. You ready for this? 82,000. If 408 still sounds like a lot because many of them are children who are being carried, we know that from the reporting that's gone on. 82,000? How many people died trying to get here? I mean, this is huge evidence against the Biden-Harris administration that they weren't just derelict in their duties. They were deadly dangerous. I want to go now to Brooke Taylor, who's live in Dallas, Texas, with more on this. Brooke.
Hi, Harris. Well, DHS and ICE leaders say that right now, just in the first 50 days as President Trump was under office, they say that these top officials say that they're dealing with a massive problem because of this. Detention facilities are at full capacity, maxed out with 47,600 detainees because, as you just mentioned there, they're outpacing those arrest numbers that we saw under the Biden administration. So senior officials say that they're working with the Defense Department for more bed space, but they would also need more funding from Congress, as we see going on right now. The senior DHS and ICE officials also giving us new arrest numbers, as you mentioned. Check this out. During President Trump's first 50 days in office, ICE arrested roughly 32,800 illegal aliens. Of those arrests, senior leaders say around 14,000 were convicted criminals.
And so you're looking at, he did all of this despite the public backlash against him, despite leaks within federal agencies, despite politicians going out there and advising these illegals how to avoid police detection. But he still was able to accomplish far more than Biden ever did. The numbers don't even compare.
Nearly 10,000 have pending criminal charges, and the remaining were in the United States illegally. DHS has not said how many of those have been deported. We have been pressing them. Senior leaders, though, also accusing the Biden administration of misleading the public regarding their ICE arrest numbers and, quote, cooking the books. Check out what ICE Director Todd Lyons had to say about this. He said, quote, ICE found tens of thousands of cases that were recorded as arrests when in fact the illegal aliens were simply processed and then released into American communities.
Wow. Did y'all hear that? So some people were brought into custody. They were arrested. They were processed and then re-released. And then the Biden administration was touting this as their arrest number. I'm disgusting, y'all. Disgusting and evil. How many people were negatively impacted? You had 14,000 that we've caught so far within the first 2 months. How much crime? How many people were victimized because of these evil actions? I'm telling you, prosecutions need to come down. Now, I question whether that'll ever happen, but there needs to be. There should be.
I've been trying to reach out to former DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to get his response to these claims. I haven't heard back, but you
ain't gonna hear nothing from that clown. Or if you do, of course, he'll be trying to argue and defend the poor job he did.
Previously blamed Congress for issues during a Senate hearing last year. Listen.
Our immigration system, however, is fundamentally broken. Only Congress can fix it. Congress has not updated our immigration enforcement laws since 1996, 28 years ago.
Well, I think Donald Trump was accurate when he said, it come to find out you didn't need new laws, you just needed a new president. Because you can't, how do you explain that? How do you explain him being able to stop up the wide open border within the matter of days upon his inauguration? Everything that happened with those wide open borders, first you were told that it wasn't an issue until you started having citizens going down there and recording everything that was happening. Then when they were forced to admit it, then they actually started talking about it. More mainstream media, even like Al Sharpton, that clown, was talking about it. We saw Harris is given the position as border czar, as I mentioned earlier, but then when she decided to run, she was never the border czar. I'm telling you, y'all, lie after lie after lie. How long does somebody have to lie to you until you start seeing them as a liar and you start acknowledging the fact that they're unreliable and that they're untrustworthy? Please wake up, y'all.
And sources tell Fox News that nationwide gotaways across the border right now are averaging about 77 in just the last few weeks. Harris, that is a lot lower than we have seen. These gotaways, as we know, are illegal migrants who successfully are able to evade Border Patrol agents.
As you can see, I'm very passionate about this topic because, again, it's one of these areas that's used to demonstrate supposedly the extreme levels of racism in our nation. But when you start to dig deeper and you start to examine who is most negatively impacted, you'll see that the side who claims to care so much about the minority and who yells and screams racism at every turn are the ones whose policies are the most racist. Comment down below. I'd love to know what you think. If you appreciate content like this, make sure you give me a like and subscribe. And before you go, check out this video right here that addresses the topic of immigration. And it's a video that I really want to see more people watch because it's something that's very near and dear to my heart. So make sure you check this one out.